Hi, in today's video, we are going to expand on our portfolio series where we were creating a Angular application for our portfolio uh, that was an expense tracker. And in our previous video, we have used signals to create a form. And in today's video, we are going to create reactive forms. So if you haven't watched the previous video using the signals, you can watch it over here. Uh, the link is going to be shown over here. So once you get an idea of the signals, then you can expand on this reactive forms. So without further ado, let me share my screen. So our app is hosted here on a public URL. You can see hellohub.github.io, and you can see a form have been created, and there's an expense form, and we can filter out the expenses based on the categories. And same, I have launched it on our local post as well. So let's just start working on the reactive app. So first we need to know what reactive forms are and why do they exist. Like our current add expense form was using ngModel, and one signal per field was used. So you can see like new title have been used as a signal, an empty signal, then there was an amount based signal and category signal as well. But in case if we need to keep on adding multiple fields, so what we need to do, we need to have multiple signals. We just need to keep on adding multiple signals, and you can see somewhat in a similar way like date, note, and recurring attachment. So what is the problem over here? What is actually going to happen? Like if we keep on adding these signals, we need to add like own validation logic for each, and there is going to be own error messages, and it would be like scattered across all the places. So rather than having a single place and presenting it as a form, it would be scattered across individual signals. So what does reactive form give us? It's give us a solution where we can treat the entire form as one object. I'll be quickly showcasing you how we are going to deal with the form as an object. We can validate it, we can reset it, and we can observe all at once. A quick comparison between these two is like form state is scattered across signals. In reactive form, only one signal form group is there. And then comes the validation, manual if checks. Over here, we can have declarative built-in validators, which we'll be looking at in the upcoming slides. Then comes the error message. So Angular can use the touched for that control or form as well to show the error messages. Then comes the reset. So on reset, if we need to reset a signal, we need to use the set with an empty. But if we are using the form, we can reset all the signals use or all the controls using the form.reset. And then similar observe change is not that straightforward, whereas in reactive forms we can get the form.value changes observable. So there are like three building blocks of reactive forms. One is a form control, which is an individual item. You can think of it as a new title as a form control. Then come a form group. This is the actual form, which is a group of all the controls. And then comes the validator. Validator itself are rules. We will be looking it into detail in the coming forms. So think of form control as a one single field. What does it do? Like as I've just mentioned, like title is a new form control. Same goes with amount. So and form control is an object that tracks everything about a single field, not just its value. In signals, we were like taking the value only, but over here it's track everything about a single field. Let's say if we have a new title form, so what we can get out of it? We can get the value. We can check the title dot valid. Is it a valid? Is it invalid as well? Is it being touched? Touched mean user have clicked into the field then left. Is it dirty if the user have typed anything? is there any error in that field? So it's giving a whole state. So you can see it's stored the value plus the entire interaction state of that field. So this is the main prime reason we are going to use this control form. And we do not need to show a title is required error at the moment when we load the page. So how does we can do? We can use the form control touch property. So in case if the user have touched that field, only then we need to show any error messages. Otherwise, we do not. We at the time of load, we should not show any sort of validation or error messages. Then what's the difference from the signal approach? Signal was only keeping the value. So as I already mentioned, then comes the form group. Form group controls like it groups as the name suggests. It's a form group. So what does it do? It groups controls into one form object. How does it do? Like expense forms can be created using a new form group, and within that you can see there are like multiple objects for this title, new form control, amount, category, and note. So all are being grouped inside this. So what does it do? Like it wraps multiple controls as I've already suggested and gives us a single object representing the whole form. Now we can interact using the expense form and perform certain actions on top of that. So again, the expense form itself is going to have its in a state of its own. So you can see, let's say if we need to fetch all the values of all the controls like title, amount, category, and food, we can just get expense form dot value. If we need to see if the form is valid, we can use the valid property. Even if we need to check if anyone have touched any field within the form, we can use the touch property. And let's say if we need to reset the whole form, only using a reset function on expense.form is going to help us. And so you can see again, as I just mentioned, reset form is going to clear all the fields. Now comes the validator. Basically, we have seen two things, form control and form group. So now comes the validator. Validator, what are they? They're just like rules or functions that run every time a field's value is being changed. So let's say we are creating a control. So what we can do? We can use the new form control, and inside that we can use an array of validators. So when a validator, let's say, fail, it writes to the error object on the control. What does it do? Like there are let's say this is the field, title field, and we have a validator required and having its min length 3. So if it fails, so title dot errors will be giving the sort of errors, and using these errors we can further perform any action on our template. So our template reads these values. Let's say you can see, let's say if title dot touched is true, it means user have interacted with the form, not form. This is the control. And then the title do have any error, either it's required or either it's min length. So based on that, we can show a paragraph like title dot required within a p tag. And on a similar way, it's up to you if you want to show div or anything. It's just not the concern, but at least you can see the if conditions are helping us show certain HTML elements. Then comes the template part. So this was the TypeScript part where we were just keeping this in the TypeScript file. So how come we can connect it with the HTML our like form or template? So there are like two directives. One is the form group, which I'm going to show you. So within the form tag, you can have the form group, and you can just connect the expense form, which we have just created over here. And ngSubmit is going to call a add expense function within our TypeScript. We'll be looking into detail when we'll be walking through the code. Then comes the form control name. What does it do? Let's say if we have an input field, an HTML input field. So what we can do, we can type form control name and just tag the title with it. And type, you can see the text, number, or anything. Even drop down using the select can have this form control name is equal to category. So you can see The Angular wires a two-way sync automatically once we use this form control name. So basically, this is the whole point of using. And you can see there is no ng plus ngModel changes anywhere over here. So now try to see how does it connect with the signals. So reactive forms in itself are not going to replace the signals. They work alongside them. And the form basically handles the input validation and the user interaction. When the user submit, we take the valid form and then we write it within the signals, like expenses signals. So let's see, just see a flow. We have a group form, and what does it do upfront? It handles the input validation, and then on a valid submit, what does it do? It calls the expense dot update signal, take over the state plus drive values. And in case if there are any computed signals which we have seen, have created in our previous video, so that computed signals are again updated automatically. So what are the improvements we are going to do in the expense form? What we are going to do, we are going to replace the add expense form with a proper form group with validation. So, and what one more thing, the add button stays disabled until all fields are empty. Then comes a budget editor. So we do have certain limits already hard coded in our previous video. So we are going to extend on that, and we are going to change the monthly limit for any category and update the signals accordingly. And the inline validations, which each field show a specific error below it when touched and invalid, we are going to show that as well. So let's just quickly see a full life cycle of a reactive form. What does actually happens when a form loads? All the controls are created with the initial value, and valid is stated as false because uh, all the validators are required over there, and touched is again false because no user have interacted, so no uh, error message is being shown over there on the page. What happens when a user click into a specific field, let's say title field? So nothing changes yet, but what actually happens when the user clicks out of it without typing anything? So touched get true, and the error messages get changed because user was supposed to write something like title was a required field and he left without entering anything. So the touched get true, but the error message also get populated. Then the user comes again and he tries to write hi. So this time the dirty uh, property of the control get true and the value is being set to high, and error is still there. One error have been changed to another error because required is being fulfilled. The validator requirement for the required is fulfilled, but for minimum length, it's not getting fulfilled because the required was like 3 and the characters over here in high is like 2. So this way now another error like min error length is going to get shown. Then comes like the groceries. So user tries to type groceries, and what actually happens, there is no error now because it fulfills both the criteria. So error messages disappears because error got null itself. And all the fields, if they are valid, let's say, then expense form dot valid is going to be true. And what actually happens, the add button, which we are going to use on our like web on form, it got enabled. And what the user is going to do then, user is going to click that button, and an add expense method within the TypeScript is get called. What does it do? It reads all the expense form dot value, which I've already shown you in my previous slide. And what it's going to do, it's going to write to expense signal within our TypeScript file. And what does the further, and if there are any computed signals, those are getting calculated as well. And expense form dot reset has been called to clear all the fields. So I'm hopeful that you are able to follow along with me. Now comes the reactive form module to your dashboard. So let's just try adding this. So what we need to do, we need to create a branch first. The reason I'm going to do it because I've already shown how to set up the project and host it on the GitHub. If you haven't watched that video, I'm going to share the link over here. So you can try watching that video to get yourself equipped with how we can showcase our portfolio on GitHub using GitHub Actions, or GitHub Pages basically. So let's just create a new branch, and then let me just quickly switch over to, um, let me just create a new terminal, and let me just check branch dash a. I might have created that branch, so sorry, I should need to use git branch dash a. So you can see I already have a react dash form branch. So you should create a branch of your own. Let me just clear it up. And in case if you don't know how to create a branch, so this is the command over here. So you just need to, if you are on the main branch, so you just need to use GitHub checkout dash B and just type features slash reactive dash forms. And if you just want to get the or pull the code from the repository of mine, you can clone the repository at your local, and you can switch between the branches to see what changes are there over here. So I already have the branch, so I'm going to skip this, and then comes what we need to do. Now we are going to do the coding part. So what I need to do, we need to use the reactive form modules into our dashboard component. So let's just try importing this reactive form module. So let me just open the TS file, go on top over here, and let's just import the form modules. Okay. Coincidentally, I have already included or imported those over here, but you can see like you can import this over here. And again, the second thing which I need to do within the imports of the component, I have already imported the reactive forms module over here as well. So this is being shown. So let's just move forward. Then comes the build the form group. So let's just open the dashboard.ts, which we are already in, and we need to replace this signals with this. So let's just try figuring it out. Like these are the new title, new amount or category signals over here. And I'm going to replace this all with what we have over here. So let me just copy this code to save time. So you can see I have replaced those signals with this like new form, and we have a title, form control, amount form control, and category. And we have also added a node form control over here as well, which can be like empty because it's not required. So let's just move to our slides. Let's just quickly discuss what changed and why. So you can see I have already shown you that we have added the form control. So we are keeping the initial value as like empty. And again, you have might have seen that within the like signal, new title signal, it was again empty. And the second argument is an array of validator, which I've already shown you. Like these validators are going to run on every keystroke. And then comes the like form control for a number. Over here, you can see we have a number pipe null. So initial value is going to be null. So what does it tell the TypeScript? That this field is going to hold a number or null. And the reason we are having null as the initial value, because this is what the field start with, because there is going to be no value initially. And when the user tries to submit either anything less than 1, so this validator is going to prevent the user from this. Then we need to add one more thing. We are going to add getters for the clean template access. I'll quickly show you why. We have to use add or like add this command get functions below our code. And why? What's the reason? Because we could have like directly get the expense form dot get title repeatedly in our templates. So what's the reason we are trying to get it? this is much of a control, like cleaner in a sense, because when we'll be using it within the template, so we just have to use this title control and we can get that value. Or if we need to change anything over here, we just need to change it within our code. So let's just try copying it. So you can see I have copied the code, this get functions. I've created the getters functions over here as well for this, and it's going to return these values. And one thing that these are more of a like computed values. They are not stored values. So they are reevaluated every time when they are like accessed. And what we need to do further, we are going to add a expense form. Current expense form, if you might have seen, let me just quickly show you. This is the new one. So if you might see the old add expense method was what it was doing. It was getting the title. It was getting the title from the signal, the value of the signal from, and then this amount, and it was trying to assess if they are like empty or not. And based on that, it was working. Now we need to change it to a new code. So let me change it first. So I have changed this method. Now what it is doing, basically, it's like working on the expense form dot invalid. And let's just quickly do one thing. If you can see, we have created an expense form over here, like with a form group having multiple controls. And now you can see over here, we are just using the invalid rather than doing 3 or 4 lines of code. It's just one line, and it's just written if the form is invalid. And what else it's getting? It's getting a raw value for all these fields, and then the expense update. So let's just quickly see it. So let's just quickly see or try to understand how this code works. So if the expense form is valid, so this is more of a guard clause, like which returns if form itself is not valid. So what does it do? We do not have to check any null validity. If any validator is failing, the whole form is valid and we just exit immediately. The second thing is that we are going to get raw values, and it's going to read all fields at once as one object. And then comes the expense form dot reset. So you can see reset for category. Basically, this category is itself a drop down. Like we are using this as a drop down. So we need the category to be set to food when we clear the form. So this is the reason when we are resetting it, we are sending the category food. And rather than moving to template, let's quickly see the code. And the rest of the things are very similar. We are like using this previous with a spread operator, and everything is being set. And this is being done in a similar way we have done previously. That now we need to, what we need to do, we need to change the div to the actual form tag. So let's just quickly change that. Okay, so I have copied the expense form over here, and you can see I have added a form group with the expense form which we have created, and ng submit button is going to hit the add expense method. And there are like inline styles for just styling, and there are certain divs we will be discussing further. So you can see that we have set the form group to the expense form, and this links to the HTML to TypeScript. And again, the ng submit is there. It when the user click enter key, or like it is going to click the button, this is going to get called. Now what we are going to do, we are going to add these title fields like form control title. We need to add that. Let's just quickly see what it is, then we'll be looking at inside the code. So we have set the form control name to title, and this is going to replace the ngModel, and the ngModel change entirely. And what does it do? Basically, the border turns like red if it's invalid. You can see we have used title control question mark dot invalid, And then again, title control dot touched. So this is going to help us change the border color. And they're like two separate messages per validator, because for a required field, there is going to be a different message. And for a minimum length, there's going to be different messages, which we have already discussed previously. So let's just look at the code in the Visual Studio. VS Code, sorry. So you can see the title form is there, everything, the if else statement is there. And then comes the new field. Now, similarly, we are going to add the amount form. And similarly, we are going to add the category as well. And then we are going to add a submit button. So let's just go to the VS Code. So you can see I have a form control name amount having some inline styles. Again, the if conditions for like required and min fields. Then comes the category. You can see this is a select. So a for is being used against the categories, and it's going to uh, have our option as a value of all the categories. So this is going to be the select. Then comes the input button. Sorry, this is not the button. This is the note. This is just a text field. And then actually comes the submit button. So you can see submit button, what it's doing. It's using the disabled property. And if it's invalid is true, then the button that is going to be disabled. And you can see the button's background is getting changed based on invalid or valid. If the form is invalid, it's going to have a different color. And if the form is valid, it's going to have a different color. Cursor is again going to get changed to not allowed or pointer. And there is a specific style. So let's just move further. So let's just add a second form, the budget limit validator. This is going to be a second form which we are going to add. And what does it do? It will help us change the monthly spending or limit for any category. So budget is again a computed field. So let's just try. You might have remembered from the last video, if you have seen that. So there was a hard coded seed limits, and there was no way to change them. So we are allowing the UI to change those limits. So what does it do? Again, we are going within the dashboard TS form and going to add a second form directly below our previous getters. So this is a form we are going to add. So let's just go to the VS Code. So you can see below these previous getters, I have added a budget form. And there are like two getters as well. So just two fields like a category and a limit being used. And for that, you can see it's going to control is going to get the category performed, and it's a required validator. And for the limit, we need to at least have a limit of 1, somewhat similar to the amount we have used previously. So the key behavior, you can see one thing which we are going to add over here. We need to, let's say, if we are going to click on any existing category, so we need to pull the current limit automatically from the category's current limit. And for that, we need to add a further method on budget category change. What we are going to do, we are going to pass in a category which is going to pull the current limit from the category. And the limits, I would say the limits signal based on that specific category. And once we have that current limit, we are going to use patchValue. This is again a new method. PatchValue, what it's going to do, it's going to update only the field we specify. It just leave everything else alone. So patchValue is going to only affect the category. If we are changing the food category, it is going to affect that only. So let's just try adding that function. And let me just first discuss the difference between this between set value and this is that like patch value is only going to update that specific limit, which I've already mentioned. So let's just quickly add this function. So I've added this on budget category change over here after the expense function. So you can see it's being added the same way we have discussed. Now I'm going to add a save method as well. So this is going to be a save method, which we'll be looking in detail in the VS Code for once I add. One thing and certain things which we are going to discuss is like a category or limit not is a computed property keys. So what does it mean? The square means the value of category as the key name. So if the category is food and limit is, let's say, 15,000. So what does it do? It produces a object of food colon 15,000. And what does the spread do? It keeps all the previous records. So it's going to update the previous records with the like new categories limit, category name, and the limit. So this is going to happen like after saving. Again, the form is going to get reset, and you might see like the budget form is getting reset with the category being set to the food. So in the second last line, you can see that. And then like comes the on budget category change function. We are calling the same from here as well. So let's just add this. So you can see I have added this function over here as well. So again, it's checking for the valid if the budget form is valid, and it's going to get the raw value of that. They're going to update this limit and then going to reset the form and going to call this method. So let's just move forward. And now we are going to add this like a budget editor HTML to our dashboard.html form. So again, you can see like form group is going to be budget form, and ng submit is going to be save budget function, which we have recently added. And one more thing you might have been noticing that we have already used on the same page. There was already a form, and we are going to add one more form. So it's going to be perfectly valid for Angular. So let's just see to it. Okay, so you can see like I have added this budget form over here. And what I need to do, I have created this form, a certain like labels have been added. We'll be discussing in like upcoming slides. So for this, just see this form have been added. Then comes the category drop down. So you can see like within the category selector, we are going to use this select form. You can simply use a form control name with the category. And what is on change is going to call on budget category change, which we have already created. And you can see the form control name and change can coexist. So what does it do? The change handles the side effect and the form handles the value synchronization. So let's just quickly see and add that. So you can see I have added a label and a category select, and you can see within that something are missing, which I'm going to add further. So for the time, just focus on this select and the label. Let's just quickly move to the next slide. So limit input is again going to be added in a similar way. This is going to be an input field. So I will be adding it in a single go. And you can see this is going to have a pre-filled automatically. Really, like this input is going to be filled automatically because we have used the patch value in our on budget category change. And what does the user see? He will see the current value and he can directly edit it. Then comes the save button, which we are going to add over here in the HTML. And again, some similar lines, it's going to get changed from a purple to another color of green. And same disable pattern is going to be used over here as well. And so let's just quickly see the complete budget editor being assembled. So from left, you can see we have a form group, then we have a div over here, and on the right, we have another like div. So with this button, so let's just try to see. Okay, so we are facing an error over here because this change category is expecting a string always. And our budget category control, it seems like we are trying to pass this. So we should have to enforce that no null value is going to be passed over here. And for this, we are using this exclamation mark. So let's just try running this or see this. within the browser. And so you can see if I haven't added anything, the color doesn't change. So let's just add it. Let me just add a transport category. Let's just add the expense and see if it's got added or not. So let me see within the transport, is there any expense or not? So this is the current date expense. You can see, and 100 rupee have been like added to the transport. Let's just try looking at the category thing. What we need to see. Let's just try putting. You can see, once I try to edit a budget, and once I try pulling, let's say food, you can see 12,000 is there. Let's just try reducing it to 10,000. So I'm going to click on the save limit. Seems like it's not working. Let me just try fixing it. Okay, seems like it's very quickly being updated. And something refresh is not being done. Let's just try saving it. You can see it's quickly getting saved. Let me just try doing it for bills, because that was the actual category and default category. Let's just try doing it for this. And now you can see we got switched back to this food. One thing which is actually happening, because it's already pulling the existing limit. So that's the reason save button is always looking enabled. So we will try catering to this in the upcoming video. So I'm hopeful that you are able to successfully create and use the reactive forms. And I'm going to update and push the same on the main GitHub repo as well. So you'll be able to pull that up from there as well. So if you like the video, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.